Welcome, Honorable Mention, to Honorable Mention. We continue our course in Na'aleh. This class is L'Nishus Rachel Le'avas V'chaim Tzvei. Today we begin the subject of gratitude, which is such a critical issue, particularly regarding happiness. For as we know, and I hope we understand this, that it's grateful people that are the happy people, and the most important component to achieving happiness is gratitude. If you don't mind me quoting myself, we call this self-plagiarism. I once heard that term from Rabbi Soloveitchik, Zichron Livracha. We wrote the story, and I know the story to be true because I heard it from the protagonist herself. This woman is a specialist in special education, and according to New York state law, the homebound are entitled to an education. This woman who was a specialist, she went to this girl who was born low lane with a rare congenital defect which has robbed her of her brain. This woman attempts to teach her motor control. She told me if the girl would ever raise the smallest pinky, it'd be a major miracle. So she'd go to her 3 times a week. One day, in this wealthy, affluent, religious neighborhood in Brooklyn, the father was home. She had never met the father before, and he was wearing a real fancy suit and tie. He went over to the crib, scooped up the child, and hugged and kissed her, and said without any irony at all, "What do you say about our Eitzer? What do you say about our treasure? After 14 miscarriages, look what God blessed us with." And man was truly grateful and appreciative. You hear a story like this, and you come home and you see your kid coloring on the wallpaper. You want to hug them and not break them. So gratitude is the most important achievement, the most important component to being a happy person. And religious Jews have the obvious edge because we're taught from time we're children to make a bracha. And what's a bracha all about? A blessing? A blessing means appreciation, gratitude. We don't just stuff our mouth, but we have to think beforehand that we appreciate what we have. And that's why, not a well-known halacha, preferably before you make a bracha on bread, you should hold it with both hands to think about the 10 fingers. 10 fingers remind you of the 10 labors. There's winnowing and threshing and sowing. People think a bread comes out of a bag which comes out of a shelf on a supermarket, and that's it. So much went into this bread, and the more you think about it, the more grateful you will be. And as I tell my kids, not just to make a blessing, but to mean it. Because blessings are the barbells that keep us in tone. It makes you a happier person. We make 100 blessings a day. If we think it's just about 3 of them, even better, 5, maybe 6, maybe whatever it is. One more than the next one is better. And the more we think about appreciation, the more grateful we'll be, and then the happier we will be. I was flying to America, and on my flight were 2 of the great rabbis I learned in the Mir Yeshiva, 2 of the great Gedolim of the Mir. This is many years ago. One was Rav Aryeh Finkel, whom we called the Tzaddik of the Mir. Today he's the Rosh Yeshiva in Brachfeld. And not for naught did he earn this title of being the Tzaddik. The man is so righteous, pious, and devout. You put your fingers over here, they'd be dripping with the Shekhinah of God's holy presence. And the other was the Mashgiach and Yeshiva of Aron Chodesh. When these 2 great Gedolim learned that I would be on their flight, they asked me if I would sit next to them. But my policy is whenever I travel, I prefer to sit next to someone who is not yet religious. I thought about what I'm doing in life. Most people have not. A person stuck next to me for 11 hours, that's a chance to impact. So I said I'll be juxtaposed in propinquity, but not totally adjacent. Fair enough. So Aron Chodesh at the window, Rabbi Finkel, the great tzaddik, the pious saint, in the middle, next to him Israeli. I sat behind him, and next to me was a middle-aged Israeli couple. I introduced myself to my neighbor, and he tells me he is Charedi Chiloni. Meaning not only is he not yet religious, he is zealously not yet religious. His wife explained as a Dor Shminit Yerushalmit, an 8th generation Jerusalemite, whose grandmother grew up in Batangar Me'asharim. She was Chozeret Bish Eilah. First time I ever heard that expression. That means the antithesis of Chozer B'Shuvah. She'd kicked the fold, and they were very proud of her. Needless to say, I had my work cut out for me. So I go into my spiel, Gunish, like water for duck's back. No impression whatsoever. We fall into fitful sleep. 4 hours later, it's a night flight. Dawn is cracking. And Rabbi Finkel jumps up. Here is the very first opportunity to say Berchot HaShachar, to say the morning blessings. He jumps up, puts on his rekel, puts on his jacket, puts on his hat. He goes into the wind-up and he begins, Baruch Atah. A couple next to me are freaking out and they tell me, he's one of yours. You get him to quiet down. I was not prepared to cooperate. They called up a steward and the stewardess said, get him off the plane. I tried to explain this is highly impractical. They called the captain. After 2 or 3 minutes, Rabbi Finkel sits down. Couple resumes breathing. Then Rabbi Finkel gets up and goes to the bathroom, comes back and once again puts on his jacket, puts on his hat, goes back into the wind-up. And by no means in a quiet voice, he begins with all the histrionics and gesticulations. Baruch Atah. Couple says, my man next to me says to me, now what's he doing? I said, sir, I don't know how to explain this to you, but there's a blessing you make when you come out of the bathroom. He said, give me a break. I said, no. All you have to do is go to the hospital. If someone's inlets aren't inletting, and their outlets aren't outlets, a rupture, blockage, they're miserable, horrific. He in his pain. Some physiognomy changed. He turned to me and he said, Atardema, you know what? Yesh B'Samash, you got a point. The next 6 hours of talking religion all the way to America. He then came to hear me speak. We're both traveling to Los Angeles. And I always say it's Rabbi Finkel's bathroom blessing that turned him around. That's what it means to be appreciative, to be grateful. One of the seminaries where I teach a course on tefillah and prayer. My first class of the year is Moda'ani, a prayer Jew says upon arising in the morning. And I ask my students, honestly and truly, what do you think we say Moda'ani? Moda'ani lift. But if you